Ethan Miller sat in the plush bar, the soft glow of crystal chandeliers casting a warm light over the polished mahogany tables. The air was thick with laughter and the clinking of glasses, punctuated by the upbeat rhythm of a live band in the corner. He leaned back in his leather chair, a confident smirk playing on his lips as he regaled his friends with tales of his latest business venture. At 35, Ethan was the epitome of success, wealthy, charismatic, and with a lifestyle that most could only dream of. He wore a tailored suit that clung to his athletic frame, showcasing the lifestyle he had built from the ground up. And then I told them, if they want to compete with me, they'd better bring their A game, Ethan exclaimed, his deep voice booming over the chatter. His friends erupted into laughter, captivated by his charm and bravado. They were all enraptured by the spectacle of Ethan, a man who had the world at his feet. Yet, there was an underlying current of something more in the air, a sense of recklessness that often bubbled beneath the surface when they gathered. As he took a sip of his top-shelf whiskey, one of his friends, Alex, leaned in closer, his eyes glinting with mischief. You know, Ethan, you're always talking about the women you date. But where are you going to settle down? You need to find someone who can keep up with you. Settle down? Please, Ethan scoffed, waving his hand dismissively. Why would I do that? My life is too good right now. Commitment is for the weak. Then how about we make it interesting? Alex suggested, a grin spreading across his face. Let's make a bet. You marry the next woman who walks through that door. No backing out, no second thoughts. Just like that. The group erupted in cheers, the idea igniting a wild enthusiasm among his friends. Ethan, fueled by the thrill of the moment, felt his pulse quicken. You're on, he declared, grinning widely. The stakes were trivial in the grand scheme of things, but it felt exhilarating. What's the wager? Let's say $1,000 each, Alex proposed, and the others nodded in agreement, each of them eager to contribute to this ridiculous endeavor. As they settled back into their chairs, Ethan's gaze flickered toward the entrance. The bar buzzed with anticipation, and he felt the pressure build. He could practically taste the excitement in the air. Would it be a glamorous model? A business mogul? The possibilities were endless, and the thrill of the unknown was intoxicating. Just then, the door swung open, and in walked Clara Johnson. She was a vibrant woman with a warm smile that lit up her face, radiating an infectious energy that seemed to draw people in. Her curly hair balanced lightly with each step, framing her round face that held an expression of genuine joy. Dressed in a simple yet colorful sundress, she appeared completely at ease, blissfully unaware of the stakes at play. Who is that? Ethan's friend Mark muttered, eyeing Clara with a mix of curiosity and surprise. Ethan's heart raced. There she was, the unwitting participant in his impulsive wager. He felt a jolt of excitement, coupled with something unexpected, a flicker of apprehension. She didn't fit the mold of the women he usually pursued, but there was something undeniably captivating about her demeanor. That's her, he said with a confidence he didn't entirely feel, straightening his posture and wiping the smirk from his face. Go on, then, Alex urged, nudging Ethan forward. Don't keep the lady waiting. With a deep breath, Ethan rose from his seat, determination coursing through him. He navigated through the throng of people, each step feeling heavier than the last. As he approached Clara, she turned, her dark eyes meeting his with a curious glint. There was a moment of recognition, a fleeting connection that set his heart racing. Hi there, he said, his voice smooth yet tinged with an edge of nervousness. I'm Ethan. What brings you here tonight? Clara tilted her head slightly, her smile unwavering. Just out for a drink with some friends. It seems like a fun place. Fun indeed, he replied, his bravado returning. How would you like to make it even more interesting? Interesting? She raised an eyebrow, intrigued but cautious. Ethan felt the eyes of his friends boring into him, urging him on. I have a bet with my friends. They dared me to marry the next woman who walked through the door. And, well, that's you. Clara blinked, taken aback by the absurdity of his proposition. You're joking, right? Not at all, he replied, his tone light, but the weight of the situation hung heavily in the air. I know it sounds crazy, but I'm a man of my word. What do you say? Laughter erupted from the table behind him, and Clara glanced over her shoulder, her expression shifting from surprise to amusement. This is quite the proposal, she said, her voice tinged with disbelief. Ethan chuckled, caught up in the surreal nature of the moment. I know it's absurd, but think of it as an adventure. A wild story to tell your grandchildren. Clara considered him for a moment, her brow furrowing slightly. And what's in it for you? Bragging rights? He said, a grin spreading across his face. And a bit of fun. You'd be doing me a favor. Doing you a favor? She shook her head, a smile creeping onto her lips despite herself. You really are something else, aren't you? Hey, life is short. Why not spice it up a little? He leaned in, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Besides, I promise I'm a lot of fun. Her laughter was genuine, and for a moment, Ethan felt a connection that transcended the ridiculousness of their situation. All right, she said, her expression turning serious. I'll bite. Let's see where this goes. Ethan's heart raced, a mixture of disbelief and excitement coursing through him. As they turned to leave the bar together, the cheers and jeers of his friends faded into the background. The initial shock of what had just transpired began to give way to curiosity. What had he just done? And who was Clara? This woman who had waltzed into his life with such unexpected charm. Clara walked beside him, her presence both grounding and exhilarating. So, Mr. Miller, what's the plan? Do we go to the courthouse now, or do you have something more elaborate in mind? Let's take it one step at a time, he replied, a hint of a challenge in his voice. I may have proposed on a whim, but I promise it'll be a story worth telling. Clara chuckled, an infectious sound that made Ethan's heart skip a beat. I hope this isn't going to turn into one of those reality TV shows where everyone ends up regretting their decisions. Not on my watch, he assured her, his confidence returning as they stepped out into the cool night air. We'll make it memorable, I guarantee it. As they walked away from the bar, the absurdity of their situation began to settle in. Clara's laughter echoed in his ears, mingling with the thrill of the unknown that lay ahead. Little did they know, this spontaneous decision would set them on a path of discovery, challenging everything they thought they knew about love, beauty, and acceptance. Ethan Miller stood at the altar, adjusting his tie nervously, as the bright lights of the cameras flashed around him. The small chapel was packed with curious onlookers, eager to witness the spectacle that had taken social media by storm. Friends of Ethan's, sporting sly grins and barely concealed laughter, filled the front rows, while reporters jostled for position, hoping to capture every moment of the unconventional wedding. It was supposed to be a joke, a bet gone hilariously awry, but now it felt all too real. Clara Johnson stepped through the chapel doors, her heart pounding in her chest. The weight of the moment hung heavy on her shoulders. She had always dreamed of a wedding day filled with romance and love, but this felt like something out of a bizarre reality show. Her dress, a flowing white gown that hugged her curves, glimmered under the bright lights. Clara took a deep breath, reminding herself that she was not just a punchline, she was a person deserving of happiness. As she walked down the aisle, the whispers of the crowd prickled at her skin. Look at her, one woman scoffed, leaning over to her companion. What a strange match. Is this even real? A man chuckled, shaking his head. I can't believe he went through with it. Clara forced herself to ignore the murmurs, keeping her eyes locked on Ethan, who stood at the altar with an expression that was a mix of excitement and apprehension. She reached his side, and for a brief moment, their gazes locked. There was a flicker of understanding between them, a silent acknowledgement that neither of them had anticipated this would happen. The officiant cleared his throat, breaking the tension. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to witness the union of Ethan and Clara." Ethan's friend snickered, the atmosphere thick with a cocktail of amusement and disbelief. Clara felt her heart flutter, a mixture of exhilaration and anxiety coursing through her. She had accepted this challenge, but now that it was happening, reality felt much heavier than it had in the bar that fateful night. As the ceremony progressed, Clara found herself caught in a whirlwind of emotions. Ethan recited his vows with an uncharacteristic seriousness that took her by surprise. "I promise to take this leap with you, even if it started as a bet. I will honor the adventure we are beginning." His voice carried a sincerity that resonated with Clara, cutting through the noise of the crowd. When it was her turn, Clara took a deep breath, her voice trembling slightly. "I promise to embrace this journey, to find joy in the unexpected. I may not know what the future holds, but I choose to face it together with you." The words tumbled out, and for the first time, she felt a flicker of hope that perhaps this gamble could lead to something meaningful. As they exchanged rings, the laughter of Ethan's friends echoed in the background, but Clara focused on the warmth of Ethan's hand as he slipped the ring onto her finger. It felt heavy yet comforting, a symbol of an unexpected commitment. With the officiant's final words, "You may kiss the bride," the chapel erupted into applause and laughter. Clara and Ethan shared an awkward kiss, the moment tinged with an odd mix of disbelief and excitement. As they pulled away, Clara noticed the sparkle in Ethan's eyes, a glimmer of something genuine peeking through the bravado. Later, as they exited the chapel, the flash of cameras intensified, and Clara's heart raced. The media frenzy was overwhelming. Reporters shouted questions, desperate for sound bites, and Ethan's friends were quick to capitalize on the moment, playfully shoving him toward the microphones. "Ethan, how does it feel to marry the woman of your dreams?" one of them joked, eliciting laughter from the crowd. Clara felt a knot form in her stomach. This wasn't the fairy tale she had imagined. Instead, it felt like she had stepped into a circus, and she was the main act. As they reached the car, she hesitated, grappling with the realization that the world was watching her every move. "Are you okay?" Ethan asked, his voice low, concern etching his features. Clara nodded, forcing a smile. "I'm fine. Just a bit overwhelmed." As they drove to Ethan's lavish mansion, Clara couldn't shake the feeling of unease. The opulence surrounding her was both dazzling and intimidating. Their new home loomed ahead, a sprawling estate that seemed to whisper of luxury and wealth. She had never lived in such extravagant surroundings, and the thought of fitting in felt like an insurmountable challenge. Once inside, the grandeur of the mansion swallowed her whole. The marble floors gleamed, the high ceilings felt oppressive, and the walls adorned with expensive art seemed to mock her presence. Ethan, oblivious to her discomfort, began explaining the features of their new home, his enthusiasm palpable. "This place has everything. A pool, a home theater, and even a library," he boasted, gesturing grandly. "Wow," Clara said, her voice barely above a whisper. She felt small in this enormous space, the weight of expectations pressing down on her. "It's beautiful." "Right. You'll love it here. We can throw parties, invite friends over," Ethan continued, his excitement infectious. But as he spoke, Clara's heart sank a little more. "Parties?" she echoed, feeling a knot tighten in her stomach at the thought of mingling with his high society friends. "Do you think I'll fit in?" Ethan turned to her, his expression shifting from excitement to concern. "Of course, Clara. You'll be great. Just be yourself." Be myself, she murmured, the words feeling heavy with irony. How could she truly be herself in a world that had often rejected her for her appearance? Her mind raced back to the jabs and laughter she had faced throughout her life. As days turned into weeks, Clara found herself navigating the complexities of her new life. The high society events felt like a whirlwind, each gathering more extravagant than the last. Ethan's friends were a rowdy bunch, and while they initially welcomed her with open arms, Clara soon sensed their underlying skepticism. "Ethan, are you sure about this?" one of his friends whispered one evening, referring to Clara as they stood at the edge of a lavish cocktail party. "She's different," another friend remarked, a smirk on his face. "Isn't it kind of a joke?" Clara overheard their words, a chill running down her spine. The laughter that had once felt like a warm embrace now felt like ice, freezing her from within. Ethan, engrossed in conversation, seemed oblivious to the whispers, and Clara's heart ached with the desire for acceptance. One evening, after returning from yet another gala, Clara found herself sitting on the edge of their grand bed, her heart heavy. She felt like a stranger in her own life. Ethan entered the room, a glass of wine in hand, and paused when he saw her expression. "What's wrong?" he asked, concern flooding his voice. I don't know if I belong here," Clara admitted, her voice breaking. "Every time I walk into a room, I feel like everyone is judging me." Ethan set his glass down, moving to sit beside her. "That's not true. They're just curious. You're new to this world, and it takes time to adjust." "Curious?" Clara scoffed, frustration bubbling to the surface. "It feels more like they're laughing at me behind my back. I don't want to be a joke, Ethan." "Hey," he said gently, taking her hand in his. "You're not a joke. You're my wife, a beautiful, strong woman. I know it's hard, but you have to believe that." "I want to believe that," Clara replied, tears welling in her eyes. "But it's hard when all I see is their laughter and their judgment." Ethan's expression softened, and he pulled her closer. "You know what? Let's forget about all of this for a moment. Just us. No parties, no friends, just you and me. We can figure this out together." Clara nodded, grateful for his support, but inside, a storm was brewing. She wanted to believe that she mattered in his world, that her worth wasn't tethered to appearances or the laughter of others. But the battle within her raged on, and she knew that finding acceptance would be a journey all its own. As the days passed, Clara continued to struggle with fitting into Ethan's high society life. She found herself torn between the image of the woman she was expected to be and the woman she truly was. The laughter of his friends echoed hauntingly in her mind, a constant reminder of the world she was thrust into. Despite the trials they faced, she held on to the hope that perhaps, in this unexpected marriage, there lay the seeds of something deeper, if only she could learn to embrace herself and the life that had been thrown her way. Ethan Miller sat at his expansive mahogany desk, the afternoon sun streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows of his mansion. He glanced at the clock. It was almost time for Clara to arrive. The charity event she had organized for body positivity was just a few hours away, and despite his initial reluctance, he felt a twinge of excitement mixed with apprehension. He had never involved himself in anything like this before. As he waited, he reflected on the past few weeks since their impulsive marriage. Ethan had been surprised by how quickly he had grown to admire Clara. At first, he had viewed her through the lens of a bet, a wild adventure to entertain his friends. But with each passing day, her resilience and unique perspective on life began to chip away at his superficiality. The door swung open, and Clara entered, her presence filling the room with warmth. She wore a flowing emerald green dress that accentuated her curves beautifully, and her hair cascaded in soft waves over her shoulders. Ethan couldn't help but admire how radiant she looked, her confidence shining through. "Ethan, I hope you're ready for tonight, Clara said brightly, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. He stood up, meeting her gaze. Ready as I'll ever be. Just, how did you manage to get me roped into this again? Clara laughed, a sound that filled the room with joy. Oh, come on. It'll be fun. Besides, you'll be supporting an important cause. We need to show people that beauty doesn't have a size. He nodded, feeling a mix of pride and nervousness. I know. It's just, public events aren't really my thing. Trust me, Ethan. This is going to mean so much to so many people, Clara replied, her tone serious now. I want to show everyone that loving yourself is the first step toward acceptance. I need you there with me. Her sincerity tugged at his heartstrings. He realized how much this event meant to her, and he couldn't bear to let her down. Okay, I'm in. Just promise me you won't make me wear anything ridiculous. Clara smirked. No promises. You might just end up in a tutu if it gets the message across. Ethan chuckled, shaking his head. I'll take my chances. As the evening approached, they arrived at the venue, a large community center adorned with colorful banners promoting body positivity. The atmosphere buzzed with energy. Volunteers scurried about, setting up tables, arranging chairs, and preparing for the guests. Clara's excitement was infectious, and Ethan found himself swept up in her enthusiasm. He held her hand, feeling the warmth radiating from her palm. Look at this place, Clara exclaimed as they entered the main hall, her eyes wide with wonder. It's perfect. Ethan couldn't help but smile at her childlike joy. You've really outdone yourself. Thank you, she beamed, squeezing his hand. I just want everyone to feel welcomed and loved. That's what this is all about. As the event commenced, Ethan watched Clara from the sidelines as she addressed the crowd. She spoke with such passion, her voice unwavering as she shared her own struggles with body image and societal acceptance. The audience listened intently, and Ethan felt a swell of pride for the woman who had unexpectedly entered his life. Beauty comes in all shapes and sizes, Clara emphasized, her words resonating with the crowd. We need to embrace ourselves and each other, no matter what society tries to tell us. Ethan could see the impact of her words. People were nodding, some even wiping away tears. It was a side of Clara he had never witnessed before, a woman who could command a room and inspire change. After her speech, Clara stepped off the stage, and the audience erupted in applause. Ethan rushed to her side, pulling her into a tight embrace. You were amazing, he proclaimed, his voice filled with genuine admiration. Clara grinned, her cheeks flush with happiness. I couldn't have done it without your support. Always, he replied, feeling a warmth spread through him. In that moment, he realized just how much he had come to care for her. The night continued with various activities, workshops on self-love, panels featuring speakers who shared their journeys, and even a fashion show showcasing models of all sizes. Ethan found himself participating more than he had anticipated, joining Clara on stage for a Q&A session. Okay, Ethan, Clara said playfully. Tell everyone what you thought when I first proposed this event. He chuckled nervously, chancing a glance at the audience. Well, to be honest, I thought it was a bit crazy. Laughter erupted from the crowd, and Clara continued. And now, he said, pausing for effect, I think it's one of the best things I've ever been a part of. The crowd cheered, and Ethan felt a sense of belonging he hadn't experienced in years. As the evening mooned down, he and Clara took a moment to step outside for some fresh air. Can you believe how well it went? Clara asked, her eyes shimmering with excitement. Ethan leaned against the railing, looking out at the city skyline. I didn't think I would enjoy it, but seeing you in your element, it's inspiring. Clara's expression softened. You really mean that? Of course, he said, turning to face her. You're passionate, authentic, And you care about people in a way I've never seen before. It's refreshing." Her smile widened, and Ethan felt a rush of warmth in his chest. "Back you, Ethan. That means a lot coming from you." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, the city lights twinkling in the background. Ethan glanced at Clara, her face illuminated by the soft glow. He felt an urge to reach out, to bridge the gap that had existed between them since the beginning of their unusual relationship. "Clara," he began, his voice slightly hesitant, "I've been thinking about us, about this whole marriage thing." Clara turned to him, her expression shifting to one of curiosity. "What about it? I know it started as a bet, but I don't want it to just be that. I want to get to know you, really know you, beyond the surface." Her eyes softened, and a hint of vulnerability emerged. "I'd like that too, Ethan. I really would." Just then, a group of enthusiastic attendees walked by, shouting their thanks and compliments to Clara. Ethan watched as her face lit up, her joy palpable. He realized that this was the moment he had been waiting for, the moment where their connection deepened beyond the facade of their unconventional marriage. As the night came to an end, Clara took his hand, intertwining their fingers. "Let's keep this going, Ethan. Let's explore what this can be." He nodded, a genuine smile spreading across his face. "I'd like that." Underneath the stars, with the echoes of the night still lingering, Ethan felt a shift within himself. Clara's authenticity had ignited something inside him, and he was ready to embrace the journey ahead, one that promised to challenge his perceptions and transform his understanding of love, acceptance, and beauty. As Clara Johnson and Ethan Miller continued to navigate the complexities of their unconventional marriage, a new layer of understanding began to blossom between them. One sunny afternoon in their opulent living room, filled with light streaming through the large windows, Clara found herself gazing at Ethan, who was hunched over a laptop, his expression a mixture of concentration and unease. The air was thick with unspoken words, and Clara sensed that beneath Ethan's confident exterior lay a vulnerability that he rarely allowed to surface. "Ethan," she said softly, breaking the silence, "I've noticed you've been a bit distant lately. Is everything okay?" He looked up, momentarily startled, as if he had forgotten she was there. "Yeah, I'm fine," he replied quickly, but Clara could see the flicker of discomfort in his eyes. "Fine isn't really a feeling, is it?" she pressed, her tone gentle yet insistent. "You don't have to pretend with me. I want to understand what you're going through." Ethan sighed, running a hand through his hair, revealing a hint of the stress that had been building inside him. "It's just, there's a lot of pressure. You know, being successful, maintaining this image of perfection. Sometimes it feels suffocating." Clara's heart ached at his admission. "But you don't have to carry that weight alone. We're in this together, remember?" He hesitated, the walls around his heart seeming to thicken. "I appreciate that, Clara. I really do. But it's hard to let go of what I've been taught. My mother always believed that wealth equated to worth. She pushed me to be the best, to never show weakness." Clara nodded, her empathy deepening. "I can understand that. I faced my own struggles with acceptance too. It's challenging to break free from the expectations others place on us." Ethan met her gaze, his blue eyes searching hers for understanding. "What do you mean?" Clara took a breath, feeling a swell of courage. "Growing up, I was constantly ridiculed for my size. People judged me based on my appearance rather than who I am inside. It took me a long time to realize that my worth isn't defined by how I look. I had to learn to accept myself, flaws and all." The silence between them felt charged, as if both were peeling back layers that had long shielded their insecurities. "I never knew that," Ethan murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. "You always seemed so confident." "I'm not always," Clara admitted, her vulnerability shining through. "We all have our battles, don't we?" I think we're more alike than we realize. Ethan leaned back in his chair, pondering her words. Maybe we are, he said slowly, a hint of realization dawning on him. I've always thought that wealth and status would protect me from vulnerability, but in truth, it's only isolated me. Clara smiled softly, recognizing the shift in their conversation. It's okay to feel lost sometimes. What matters is how we choose to move forward. Just then, Clara's eye caught something shiny peeking out from a drawer across the room. Curiosity piqued, she stood up and walked over to it, pulling it open. Inside, she found an old photograph, slightly crumpled at the edges. Holding it up, she gasped as she recognized the young Ethan standing beside a woman who resembled him, his mother. "Ethan, look at this," she called, her voice tinged with excitement. "Is this you?" His eyes widened as he approached her. "Where did you find that?" She handed him the photograph, and he studied it, a mixture of nostalgia and pain clouding his features. "That was taken at my high school graduation," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "My mom always insisted I look perfect. She wanted everyone to see me as successful, even back then." Clara's heart softened at the sight of the young Ethan, full of promise, but already tethered to the weight of expectations. "What was she like?" she asked gently, sensing the fragility of his memories. "She was intense. She had high hopes for me, and I wanted to make her proud," he replied, his voice faltering. "But I often felt like I was living her dream rather than my own." Clara reached out, placing a comforting hand on his arm. "It's okay to let go of that pressure. You don't have to be perfect for anyone, especially not for your mother's memory." Ethan looked at her, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I wish I could believe that. I feel like I've been running from who I really am, trying to live up to her expectations. And now, with our marriage, I don't want to drag you into that chaos." Clara shook her head firmly. "You're not dragging me into anything. We're building a life together, and it's okay to be real with each other. I want to know you, the real you, not just the persona you've created. Do you really think I can change?" he asked, vulnerability etched across his features. "I know you can," she replied with conviction. "You're already changing. Just look at how you supported me through my struggles. It takes strength to embrace who you are, and you're stronger than you realize." Ethan inhaled deeply, the tension in his shoulders easing slightly. "I want to be that person. For you, and for myself." The moment hung in the air, a delicate balance of hope and uncertainty. Clara felt a surge of affection for him, realizing how much she had grown to admire his willingness to confront his past and redefine his future. "Let's make a pact," she said suddenly, her eyes sparkling with determination. "Let's promise to support each other in this journey of self-discovery. No more masks, no more pretending." Ethan smiled, warmth flooding his chest at her words. "I promise, Clara. No more pretending." With their hearts open and vulnerabilities laid bare, they began to dream together, envisioning a life where acceptance and love reigned over superficial judgments. As they talked for hours, sharing stories and laughter, Clara felt a shift within their relationship, a bond strengthened by honesty and mutual support. Days turned into weeks, and as their connection deepened, Clara and Ethan faced the world hand in hand. They decided to harness their experiences to create a campaign focused on self-love and acceptance, believing that their story could inspire others. With Clara's passion for body positivity and Ethan's entrepreneurial spirit, they began brainstorming ideas for a viral video project that would challenge societal norms. "This is going to be huge," Ethan declared one evening, his excitement palpable. "We'll show the world that love is not confined to appearances, but rather defined by the strength of character and the depth of our connections." Clara nodded enthusiastically, her heart swelling with pride. "We can start by sharing our own story, how we met, the ridiculous bet, and how we've grown together. It's about authenticity." Ethan's eyes sparkled with admiration. "You have such a beautiful way of looking at things, Clara. I think this could really resonate with people." As they began to outline their plans, Clara felt invigorated by the prospect of using their experiences to challenge societal expectations. Together, they crafted a campaign that was both heartfelt and bold, ready to launch into the world. However, even as they embraced this new chapter, Clara couldn't shake the feeling that the road ahead would be fraught with challenges. Society's perceptions were deeply ingrained, and they knew that not everyone would welcome their message with open arms. But with Ethan by her side, Clara felt ready to face whatever came their way, fortified by the love and understanding they had cultivated in each other. Little did they know, the journey ahead would test their resolve in ways they had yet to imagine, forcing them to confront not only the expectations of the outside world, but also the insecurities that still lingered within their hearts. Clara stood in front of the large, ornate mirror in their lavish bathroom, her heart racing. The soft light of the chandelier illuminated her face as she applied her lipstick, a vibrant shade of red that she had grown fond of since marrying Ethan. Each stroke felt like a small act of defiance against the insecurities that had haunted her for years. She wanted to look strong, confident, and beautiful, not just for Ethan, but for herself. However, beneath her composed exterior, she sensed a shift in the atmosphere of their home. The once vibrant energy between her and Ethan had dulled, and she couldn't ignore the gnawing feeling deep in her gut that something was wrong. Ethan had been quieter than usual, retreating into his thoughts more often than not. Clara had noticed how he would sit by the grand fireplace, a glass of whiskey in hand, staring into the flames as if they held the answers to questions he couldn't articulate. It was as if he was wrestling with demons she couldn't see, and each day that passed without him opening up felt like a chasm widening between them. "Ethan?" Clara called softly, stepping out of the bathroom. She caught a glimpse of him through the open door of the study. "Can we talk?" He turned slowly, his expression unreadable. "Sure, Clara. What's on your mind?" His voice was steady, but there was an edge to it that sent a chill through her. Taking a deep breath, Clara stepped into the study. "I've noticed you've been distant lately. Is there something bothering you?" She crossed her arms, attempting to convey her concern without appearing confrontational. Ethan sighed, running a hand through his tousled hair. "It's just everything that's been happening with your activism. It's a lot to process." Clara furrowed her brow. "You mean the recognition? The events? I thought you were proud of what we're doing together." "I am," he replied quickly, but Clara could hear the hesitation in his tone. "I just feel like I'm fading into the background. You're the one in the spotlight now, and I don't know how to handle it." "Ethan, this isn't about you fading away. This is about something bigger. It's about helping people, changing perceptions." Clara stepped closer, her heart aching for him. "You're still right here with me, aren't you?" He turned his gaze away, focusing on a framed picture of them on the wall, smiling, carefree, two souls intertwined. "But it feels like you don't need me as much anymore. You've got your cause, and I'm just me." Clara's heart sank. "That's not true. You are so much more than your status or how you're perceived. I love you for who you are, not for what you bring to the table socially or financially." The tension in the room thickened as Ethan crossed his arms defensively. "Maybe that's the problem. I don't even know who I am outside of my wealth and status. I spent so long trying to build this image that now that you're shining, I feel like I'm left in the dust." Clara took a step back, stunned by his admission. "Ethan, you're not just your wealth or your business. You're kind, intelligent, and you have a good heart. I married you because I saw that in you, but you need to see it too." He shook his head, frustration spilling over. I don't know how. You're the one who's always been confident, Clara. You've faced your demons and come out stronger. I'm still trying to figure it all out. Then let me help you," Clara pleaded, her voice rising with emotion. "Don't shut me out. We're supposed to be a team. I want to support you, just like you supported me. Do you even realize how much pressure I feel?" Ethan shot back, his voice laced with frustration. "Everyone looks at us, and I can't escape the feeling that this was all some grand joke. That I'm just a punchline in your journey to self-acceptance." Clara's heart raced, but she held her ground. "This was never a joke to me. I fought for everything I have, my self-worth, my place in this world. Marrying you was the most unexpected and beautiful thing that's ever happened to me. But this isn't just about you or me, it's about us together." Ethan fell silent, his shoulders slumping as he processed her words. The anger that had flared between them slowly dissipated, replaced by a heavy silence that hung in the air. Clara could see his vulnerability surfacing, the cracks in his bravado revealing a man who was struggling beneath the weight of expectations, both his own and those imposed by society. "Clara," he began, his voice barely above a whisper, "I didn't mean to put all of this on you. I just feel lost. I thought I could handle everything, that I could be the supportive husband, but now I'm not sure if I'm enough." "You are enough," Clara assured him, her voice softening. "You've always been enough. You just need to believe that. We can navigate this together. Let's figure it out together, no matter how long it takes." Ethan looked into her eyes, searching for the truth in her words. "I'm scared," he admitted, vulnerability spilling forth. "Scared of losing myself and losing you in the process." Clara stepped closer, gently placing her hand on his cheek. "You won't lose me. I'm here, Ethan. I chose you, and I still choose you every single day. We can face the world together, but you have to let me in." After a moment of silence, Ethan closed his eyes, leaning into her touch. "I'm sorry for shutting you out. I didn't know how to handle everything, and I thought I could just tough it out." "I know," Clara replied softly. "But it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to admit that you're struggling. You don't have to carry that burden alone." Ethan opened his eyes, a hint of determination flickering within them. "I want to do better. I want to be more supportive of you and your work. I just need to figure out how to balance everything without losing myself." Clara smiled, relief washing over her. "We'll take it one step at a time. Let's make a plan together, how we can both shine without overshadowing each other." "Deal," Ethan said, a ghost of a smile breaking through his earlier turmoil. "I miss laughing with you." "Then let's make that happen," Clara laughed lightly. "We can bring some fun back into our lives." The heaviness between them began to lift, replaced by the warmth of shared understanding. They embraced, holding each other tightly as if reminding one another that they were still a team, still united despite the challenges they faced. As they stood there, Clara felt a renewed sense of hope. Yes, there would be struggles ahead, but together, they could face anything. Together, they would redefine their lives, their relationship, and what it meant to love and be loved. "Let's grab dinner and talk about your next event," Ethan suggested, pulling back slightly to meet her gaze. "I want to be involved. I want to support you in every way I can." Clara's heart soared. "I'd love that. And I promise to keep reminding you just how incredible you are." "Let's make it a date then," he said, his voice steady and warm. "Just the two of us." "Just the two of us," Clara echoed, feeling a sense of excitement bubbling within her. Together, they would navigate this journey, hand in hand, step by step, rediscovering the joy that had initially brought them together. Ethan sat in his study, staring blankly at the wall, the sound of the television blaring in the background drowned out by the chaos in his mind. The headlines had exploded over the last 24 hours, each one more sensational than the last. Bet gone wrong, millionaire's marriage to obese woman exposed as publicity stunt, read one. Another claimed, Ethan Miller's friends pulled the strings in unconventional marriage. The articles were relentless, detailing how he had made a bet with his friends and how Clara had unknowingly walked into a trap designed for entertainment. He felt a knot tighten in his stomach, a mixture of anger and shame. Clara, his Clara, who had brought light into his life in ways he never thought possible, was now the punchline of a cruel joke. He ran a hand through his hair, frustration mounting. How could he have let this happen? How could he have been so foolish? He rose abruptly, the chair scraping against the wooden floor, and marched toward their bedroom. Clara was sitting on the edge of the bed, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Her eyes were red-rimmed, evidence of a sleepless night. When she heard the door creak open, she looked up, but the moment their eyes met, she quickly turned away. Ethan's heart sank. The warmth that had once filled the room was replaced by an icy silence. "Clara," he started, but his voice broke, and he had to clear his throat. "We need to talk about this." "Talk about what, Ethan?" she replied, her tone clipped. "About how I'm the laughingstock of the whole world. About how everyone thinks I'm just some joke you made to entertain your friends." "That's not," he began, but she cut him off. "Not what?" she snapped, her voice rising. "Not true? I've seen the videos, Ethan. I've read the articles. I'm a sideshow to your circus act, just another freak for everyone to gawk at. You think I don't know how people see me? Clara, please," he pleaded, stepping closer. "I never intended for any of this to happen. The bet, it was a stupid mistake. I wasn't thinking." "Clearly," she shot back, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "You were thinking when you put my life on display for your little game. And now, how am I supposed to show my face in public? How am I supposed to trust you?" Ethan felt the weight of her words crash over him like waves on a shore, relentless and punishing. "I love you, Clara. I fell in love with you, not because of the bet, but because of who you are. You need to believe me." "Do I?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "How could I trust you when you've allowed this to happen? I thought you were different, Ethan. I thought we had something real." He took a step back, her words hitting him like a slap across the face. He had made a mockery of their union, and now she was rightfully questioning everything. "I know I messed up. I can't change the past, but I can promise you that I'll do everything to make this right. I'll fight for you. For us." She looked up, her eyes searching his, as if she were trying to decipher the truth hidden beneath the surface. "You expect me to just forgive you? To forget that my life has become a spectacle?" "No, I don't expect that," he admitted, his voice low and earnest. "I just want a chance to prove that my feelings for you are genuine. I want to show the world who you really are, not the image they painted. You are so much more than a headline." Clara's expression softened slightly, but her defenses remained high. "And how do you plan to do that? By issuing a public apology? By crying on camera? That won't change anything. I won't be your puppet, Ethan. You won't be. I refuse to let anyone define you. I want to help you turn this around," he urged, desperation creeping into his tone. "We can show them the truth. We can redefine what love looks like. Together." The silence that followed was heavy, filled with the unspoken fears that clung to both of them. Clara finally broke the tension, her voice barely above a whisper. "What if I don't want to be part of this anymore? What if I want to walk away?" Ethan's heart raced, the thought of losing her sending a wave of panic through him. "You can't mean that. Clara, please, don't leave me. Don't leave us. I need you." She looked away, biting her lip as if the weight of his words had struck a chord deep within her. "I don't know how to trust you again, Ethan. You've shattered something inside me." He stepped forward, taking her hands in his palms warm against her cold skin. "Then let me help you heal it. Let's take control of this chaos. We'll make our own narrative, one that speaks to love, acceptance, and resilience. Let's show everyone that we are stronger than their judgment." Clara's gaze met his, and for the first time, he saw a flicker of hope in her eyes. "And how do you propose we do that?" Ethan took a deep breath, the idea forming in his mind. "We could launch a campaign, use social media to tell our story, share our journey, our struggles, and how we've come to love one another against all odds. We can invite others to join us, to share their own stories of love and acceptance." Clara hesitated, her brow furrowing in thought. "And you think that will change how people see us?" "I believe it can," he replied, his voice steady. "We can redefine beauty and love together. We can inspire others to embrace their true selves. Let's turn this around, Clara, not just for us, but for everyone who has ever felt judged or marginalized." A small smile crept onto Clara's lips, the first sign of warmth he had seen since the scandal broke. "You really want to do this?" "Absolutely," he affirmed, squeezing her hands gently. "I want to show the world a real Clara Johnson, the brave, beautiful woman I fell in love with. Will you stand by my side?" "I will," she said softly, her resolve strengthening. "But we do this my way, Ethan. No more games, no more bets. Just us, raw and real." "Agreed," he nodded, relief flooding through him. They stood together, the weight of the world shifting just slightly, as they began to forge a new path. Clara took a deep breath, feeling a surge of empowerment. "Let's do it then. Let's turn the tables on them. If they think they can defy us, they have another thing coming." Ethan grinned, the spark of determination igniting between them. "Together, we'll show them what true love looks like. Let's start rewriting our story." As Clara felt the warmth of Ethan's hand enveloping hers, she realized that despite the chaos that surrounded them, they had the power to redefine their narrative. They would not be victims of circumstance. They would rise above the noise and carve out a space for themselves where love, acceptance, and authenticity reigned supreme. Together, they would face the world and emerge stronger, proving that true beauty lies not in appearances but in a depth of the heart,